Health System studio in downtown Gainesville, here's Martha Zoller on AM 550 and FM 102.9 WDUN. Always here, always local.
This gets to the Democratic solutions have never been to directly provide. It's always been a subsidy to a middleman. But what happens is when the government promises endless funds to insurance companies or private universities without any cost controls, and Trump seems to understand this, prices rise far beyond the rate of inflation. And we've seen it in tuition, and we've seen it in pharmaceutical, and we've seen...
It is the Martha Zoller Show, and that, if you can believe it, is Jon Stewart saying that when you put subsidies in things, it makes prices go up. To Bernie Sanders. I cut it off before Bernie started talking. This is the Martha Zoller Show. It's great to have you with us today. And sitting here in the studio with me is Greg Dolezal. He is a senator in the Georgia legislature, and he's running for lieutenant governor. Welcome, Greg.
Good morning, Martha. Great to be in beautiful downtown Gainesville today.
So tell us a little bit about you first, and then why you're running for lieutenant governor.
Yes, I'm a husband. I'm a dad of 4 kids between the ages of 7 and 13.
God bless you.
It's a full life. And
yes.
We're 3 girls and a boy. About 10 years ago, I left a previous job that I had where I was on the road with Chris Tomlin, who's a Christian musician. I tour managed for Chris for a decade of life, and God called me into politics, served 7 years in the Georgia State Senate, gotten a lot accomplished in those 7 years, everything from school choice bill that I carried to the Riley Gaines Act that I carried, to banning vaccine passports a couple of years ago. Been able to accomplish a lot, and looking forward to the next few years of hopefully serving as Georgia's next lieutenant governor.
So why lieutenant governor, and what would you like to accomplish?
I believe that the hope to save America rests in the 10th Amendment of our Constitution, and it recognizes the sovereignty of the states, recognizes states' rights, and I believe that Georgia, you know, if you look at the flow of politics, the road to everything comes through Georgia now. And we need to ensure that Georgia remains a red state. And I believe the way that we do that is by winning hearts and minds to the conservative movement. We have seen that trend line over the last 8 years under Governor Kemp's leadership. You know, he barely got elected in 2018 and then won by a landslide in 2022 because people recognize what good conservative leadership can do, and they're flocking to our side, and we need to continue that trend line. Why lieutenant governor? Because I love state-level policy. And the lieutenant governor, some people like to joke that all that he does is shakes the governor's hand to see if it's still warm. The job is more important than that. It really controls the flow of legislation. And so we've seen Burt Jones, as lieutenant governor, move some good conservative legislation through the Senate, and I would like to keep us heading in the same direction that we've been
And you've also seen him, and to be fair, I am supporting Chris Carr. I always tell people I want to be always transparent about that. I'm not anti-Burt Jones, just I've made a choice in that particular race. That's the only one I've made a choice in, though. But he has stopped some things, too. You know, like he used the schedule last year a little creatively, shall we say. Y'all got out a little early, and people were surprised by that. So you do have some power there.
Yeah, so I say control the flow of legislation. You bring up a great point, because I think that so often I've been asked this, like the first question I get asked at a chamber meeting or Rotary Club meeting after session is, what bills did you pass? And that's an important question. But Martha, I would say that the more important question are, what are the bills that you stopped? Because ultimately, if all that we are is a bill-passing entity, we are forever going to be growing government. And I think that the bills that we stop are far more important oftentimes than the bills that we actually pass. And so, yes, I'm a limited government conservative. I don't happen to wake up in the morning and think, you know, we need 50 more laws in the state of Georgia. And so I would like to see us continue to move the needle on being a roadblock to a certain extent on some of the bad pieces of legislation that we see come, frankly, from both sides of the aisle.
So want to ask you a few questions about issues that I got ahead of you being on with me today, because I promoted that you were going to be on with me today. Jeannie wanted to know what your position is on gaming or gambling.
Yeah, I'm content with where we are in the state currently. I don't have a desire to see an expansion of gaming or gambling. People say we want to bring gambling to Georgia. I would say we have it. We have it with the lottery.
Yes.
But as far as an expansion, I don't see a need to do that in the state.
Yeah. Are you ever? I'm kind of conflicted about it. I mean, I think I'm happy with where we are too. Okay. But I do understand the argument on the other side that, hey, we already got Georgia lottery, why can't we expand it? I just think it opens up just a whole can of worms, and it's not something I think we want to continue to be the number one state to do business.
Yeah, I agree. And there's also really questions as to what we're doing to younger men with the proliferation of online gaming. That is something that is very new. We don't yet have 30 years of data around that. And so, these are not things I think that we need to rush into. I agree with you. There's a libertarian side of me that just says, what's the role of government here? But as far as opening up our Constitution and changing our Constitution to do that, that's not something I think that we need to be doing.
Yeah, and I tell you, if you know a little history on our Constitution, what have there been like 1,500 amendments to that Constitution since we put it in place in the mid-'80s? It's a little too easy to change, I think, and so I think that it'll take legislators to stand in the door and say, hey, we're not going to do that. So I think that's good. My personal issue, I was one of the founding members of the Georgia Life Alliance. I served for a period of time on as their executive director when we were in between positions, and I'm asking folks to continue to pray for Claire Bartlett, who has had a very tough diagnosis, who's our current executive director a couple of months ago, and she's dealing with the treatment of that. So I always ask people to pray for her when we talk about life, because life is a lot of different phases. It's birth, but it's all the way to death. But for me, while I am pro-life, I don't want to see the abortion cocktail used at all, okay, but it is being used. And the federal government has made it really easy to use, where you can do it with telemedicine. I've been trying to get, and we didn't bring it up last year, but we brought it up for several years, to where you have to see a doctor. And I think the only thing you need to know about that, if you're going to get that abortion cocktail, is the Planned Parenthood requires you, after they give it to you, to come back the next day for a checkup. And the women who have died from complications, and the complication rate is 7% on this drug. The FDA in a normal world would not approve the use of this drug or this cocktail of drugs. So where do you stand on that? Would you be supportive of requiring that people saw a doctor if they were going to get that?
I have been supportive of that and continue to be supportive of that. Our late friend, the dear Bruce Thompson, carried that bill through the Senate, was happy to support him in that endeavor. It came through a committee that I was on at the time. Zooming out, Martha, I think that we need to continue to talk about the reality that life begins at conception, and that every human being is marked and stamped with the dignity of inalienable rights, and among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And we receive those when we become a person, and we become a person at conception.
Absolutely. Now, taxes. That seems it's going to be a big issue in the lieutenant governor's race as well as in the governor's race. What's your position on taxes and where we need to be?
So, a lot of conversation around the state income tax. When I first ran for office back in 2017, in my launch video, I guess it was 2018 that we actually put the video out. It might have been 2017. Talked about eliminating the state income tax. I think that does two things. One, it turns on an electromagnet to attract small businesses here to the state of Georgia and small business owners. And, small businesses employ the vast majority of Georgians, and they tend to share our values. We've had a lot of, large multinational companies or, Amazon look at moving headquarters here, and I'm open to that. But they bring people from California and New York and places that I'm not necessarily sure that I want to import hundreds of thousands of people from Amazon, to be put it bluntly. I own a small business in Forsyth County. We employ around 75 people. And we just have a different ethos as small business owners. The second thing that eliminating the state income tax does is it keeps small business owners here. Because right now, small business owners are tempted, as they become successful, to move to Florida and to move to Tennessee. And we see that happening all the time, both legally and frankly under the table, where they claim residency in another state but stay here. But Martha, I want to talk about a different tax this morning as well. And I believe that the more insidious form of taxation, if we want to kind of rate these things, are property taxes. And property taxes are out of control. Certainly Forsyth County, Hall County, we've seen explosive property tax growth. And that's a tax on unrealized gain. I bought Exxon stock 20 years ago, and I've owned Exxon stock for the last 20 years. And I have not had to pay a dime on my ownership of Exxon stock. But every single year, to keep my home that my wife and my kids live in, I've got to pay the government a number that I can't even predict what that might be from year to year, because they may raise my property taxes, and they have 15 to 20% in a year. And that needs to end in the state of Georgia. We can do that locally. We ended that locally in Forsyth County, but a lot of local municipalities have not done that. And we need significant property tax reform. Frankly, I'm for abolishing the property tax scheme and as it exists in the state of Georgia.
Well, and it's funny because, we did pass some laws related to that. I think 581 was what it was. And now my property tax bill has been delayed for 60 days. Normally I pay that in November. I'm not even going to get the statement until November. And then I'll pay it 60 days. You have 60 days to pay it. But does that mean I'm going to have to pay it in January and then pay it again in November of the same year? Because they maybe get it under control. So this, I got to tell you, Greg, I think I'm a pretty smart woman. I have done probably 10 interviews on that bill, and I still don't quite understand how it works. So we got a problem. I agree with you.
Yeah, that bill was an omnibus bill that had a lot of things in it, and there were some things that changed in that bill, frankly, that I didn't support, namely the elimination of the requirement for the estimated taxes. I had somebody in Cherokee County this weekend show me their estimated tax bill that was radically different from the actual bill that they got just a couple months later, like 50% different. And so I don't know how people are supposed to budget and figure out their property taxes when the estimated bill differs from the main bill.
So does Forsyth County do what Muskogee County does, where you don't pay the difference until it's sold and then the next person absorbs that property tax? Is that how they do it?
So you've got two main taxing authorities. You got your school board and you've got your county. The county M&O taxes don't go up a dime from the day that you sell your house till the day that you say the day you buy it till the day you sell it. And then it's at 65 years old, on the school tax side, it goes away completely, which frankly, I believe that all property taxes should go away after you've paid taxes in this state for 30 years. So when you reach 65 years old, if you've been a Georgia resident, not if you've moved here from California last year, but if you've been a Georgia resident for the last 30 years and paying into the system and frankly paying to help educate my kids, that should stop when you turn 65 and you stop producing income in the private sector. What we do on the school side is we cap it at 4%, which is essentially the rate of inflation in terms of what your annualized increase can be. What I would like to do statewide is say that from the day that you buy your home until the day that you sell your home, we don't redo your values every year. We tax you on the valuation at which you bought your house.
Right.
And that's what I think that's the only fair way, I believe, to have property taxes, if we're going to have them at all.
We're going to take a break. When we come back, we'll have one more segment with Greg Dolezal. We'll want to talk a little bit about education. It is half the budget, and we'll talk about all those things next. We'll be back.
Keeping you up to date with the latest news and weather. It's what we do every day.
It's the news I trust.
North Georgia's News Talk. AM 550 and FM 102.9 WDUN. Always here, always local.
Fall is planting time in North Georgia. This is Julie from Full Bloom Nursery, and now is the perfect time to plant pansies, perennials, shrubs, and trees. Planting in the fall gives your new plants time to become established without the stress of heat and dry weather. We've got over 4 acres of plants for you to choose from, so come see us for all your fall projects. Our knowledgeable staff will help you pick out the right plant for the right spot. Be sure to like us on Facebook and visit us on the web at fullbloomnursery.com.
While technology has certainly changed the way people do business, it hasn't changed the way we treat our customers. It's Mike Cormier, and at Hardy Chevrolet, we are as committed to excellent customer service as the Hardys were when they started the business here in Gainesville over 4 decades ago. When it's time for a new or used vehicle, remember what Charles Hardy always said.
We love you and we need you.
Together, let's drive. At Hardy Chevrolet, Brownsbridge Road in Gainesville, online at hardychevrolet.com.
You already know Gainesville Mechanical for their award-winning HVAC service, but did you know they handle plumbing too? Because plumbing problems never happen at a good time, you need a trusted, experienced team there when they do. From small leaks to major repairs, Gainesville Mechanical is here for you with 24/7 no overtime rates through their Customer Assurance Maintenance Plan. Proud to be named Best of Hall for HVAC and plumbing, Gainesville Mechanical and Bryant, doing whatever it takes to keep North Georgia cool since 1989.
Let's go! You're still glowing, flirting, grooving. You still got it. But your immune system weakens as you age, making it harder to fight flu, pneumococcal pneumonia, RSV, and COVID-19. Vaccines are a key part of any health routine and help strengthen your immune response. Ask your doctor or pharmacist which vaccines you need. Schedule in minutes at vaxassist.com. Sponsored by Pfizer.
Let's go! It all comes down to this, folks.
Yep, the entire season is on the line.
But my throat has officially thrown in the towel.
Sounds like you need Vicks VapoCool drops. They're max strength and vaporize sore throat pain.
Whoa! These Vapocool drops hit fast.
Speaking of fast, did you just see that play?
Yeah, he vaporized that ball.
That pun should have come with a penalty.
Vaporize sore throat pain with Vicks Vapocool drops. Use as directed.
Always here, always local.
From the Access WDUN Hardy Chevrolet Newsroom, sounds and sights from youthful industrialists will be coming out of Chicopee Woods Agricultural Center of Gainesville Wednesday morning. Details at Access WDUN and coming up on North Georgia's News Talk.
It's the Martha Zoller Show, presented by Gainesville Mechanical. From the Northeast Georgia Health System studio in downtown Gainesville on AM 550 and FM 102.9 WDUN.
It is the Martha Zoller Show, and it's great to have a man in the studio with long arms that can take a selfie. It's great. Greg Dolezal is here with me. He's a Georgia senator. We got a question related to your property tax, and then we're going to get into schools. And Joe said the main income stream for schools and roads is property taxes. Where does he see the revenue being generated for these services?
Yeah, so I think that, first of all, we've seen school expenses, especially in the last 4 years, in a lot of cases grow by 50%. And we've seen a lot of central office bloat in a lot of systems across the state, and it does not match student enrollment. So one, I believe that we need to look at the expenditure side. But secondly, the consumption taxes, I believe, are the most fair way of taxation. And I would like to see consumption taxes as opposed to property taxes used to fund all levels of government.
Also, we got this question in, and I have a number of friends in the area that I'm going to be having Andy Lord on in a couple of weeks to talk about the Title Pond bill. Do you have any thoughts on that?
I don't know which bill he's necessarily talking about. But
it's 300, I think is what it's called.
I had a bill to basically put a regulatory mechanism around the title lending and to bring that under the banks and banking department. Couldn't get the bill out of committee, but we want to see some regulation there because right now it is unregulated. I'm not a massive regulation guy, but when you kind of look at the playing field, whether it's obviously banking is regulated,
yes,
and this is adjacent to banking, and so we had a regulatory bill, and I think that we'll probably get something there. We just got to figure out kind of where there's a lot of interested parties in a bill like that.
So, what's your educational background? You're very smart.
Well, I was the son of a public school teacher, and honestly, I owe the debt of whatever intelligence I have to my mom. And was just, I read a ton. I have 2 undergraduate degrees, one in business, one in communications. Started a technology company 20 years ago. First job, really out of school, first real job was I worked at North Point Community Church down in Alpharetta. I was the creative director for a Bible study back in the day that a guy named Louis Giglio was doing called 722. And then I ended up leaving in 2005, went on the road with Chris Tomlin, and Louis a lot, actually toured with us quite a bit. Traveled the world with those guys, and then came out, got into politics, still have the technology company, have started a few other businesses, but I have been doing a lot of reading over the last few years to kind of form, not to say last few years, it's 20, to form an ideological worldview that I use to kind of measure these bills through. And I tell people all the time, I think that when someone is running for office, the question that you should ask is, what do you believe is the role of government? Because based on their answer to that question, I believe you can predict with, 95% accuracy how they will vote on any given bill, provided they have the backbone to actually align their votes with that ideological worldview.
So I'm on the State Board of Education. I serve the 9th District, and, we've had a little issue with Dublin City Schools in the last week or so because they weren't doing their audits. And, my question was, we do have an audit committee, and we do look at that, but for some reason it doesn't flag if they don't do their audits. It just shows if the audit, but it seems like to me you got 180 school systems. If you only have 175 audits, it should be pretty easy to say, where are these 5 audits? But again, it's tricky when you're a conservative because the State Board of Education and the Department of Education do not run the schools. The local authorities run the schools. And many times when you see things that are happening in Dublin City Schools, it is like Dublin City Schools, that it's that the board's not holding the superintendent accountable. So just your thoughts in general on education and what we need to do.
I believe that education is the area most ripe for reform, not only in Georgia, but in America. We've got schools where in Georgia, where 90% of 4th graders can't read on grade level. Some of these schools are 95%. You know, I wrote the Georgia Promise Scholarship Act a couple years ago. Governor Kemp really helped us get it across the finish line, because I believe that introducing competition into the education space will force innovation. The reality is that apart from the fact that there's a magic whiteboard now in the classroom, my kids' education 40 years after me largely looks the same as it did when I went to school. And there has not been the innovation in education that we could see. We should be hyper specializing the education needs of the kids. We should not be tying the education track to birth year. I mean, if you think about it, kids are gifted in a lot of different areas. I think there's 9 different areas of giftedness. Traditional schooling recognizes, I believe, 3 of them. And so you have somebody like me who tended to do well in school because the way my mind is wired. Somebody like my brother who is mechanically gifted that kind of got lost in the school system, but today is a very well-functioning member of society. And we should be identifying the skill sets of a Mike Dolezal just in the same way we identify the skill sets of a Greg Dolezal at a young age, and getting them on a track that will get them into a career where they can be, you know, good tax-paying citizens and raise a family in the state of Georgia. Go ahead.
Greg Dolezal, we're about out of time. How can people help you, and, you know, what can they do for you?
Man, we are looking to build an army in the state of people that believe in conservative governance, people that want to have elected officials in all areas of government that both have an ideological conservative worldview, that fundamentally believe in small government at their core and in their bones, but more importantly, Martha, that have the backbone to back it up with the votes. And if you look at the way that we have voted in the last 7 years, we by far have the most conservative voting record of anyone in this lieutenant governor's race. And so if you want to help me, you can go to gregdolezal.com, find me on X at Dolezal for GA, and we're going to start a movement to ensure that Georgia in 8 years from now is referred to around the country as the free state of Georgia.
You know, we're going to have a lot of people in this race, but you've got a lot of people to look at. So it was great to have you here. Thank you.
Pleasure.
Good to see you. And we're going to take a break, and we'll be back.
Whether it's a slip that ends in a slip disc, a trick knee that's holding you back, or shoulder pain hurting your game, you can count on Northside Hospital Orthopedics. With leading care in Georgia at convenient locations all across the state, we are here to get you back on your feet, no matter what comes your way. Because Georgia moves us, and we keep Georgia moving. Find a provider near you at northside.com/ortho. That's northside.com/ORTHO.
Buying or selling real estate. We do so much more than just open doors. Buying a home encompasses a 180-item checklist. I'll be glad to share it with you. Our commission is our success fee. You need Norton now more than ever. I'm Frank Norton with the Norton Agency. Call us at 770-532-0022 or look for us on the web at gonorton.com. Our family serving North Georgia for 4 generations.
Have you been driving 25 in a 55-mile-per-hour zone? Are your passengers concerned about your vision? Don't let glare at night or in the rain slow you down. Hi, this is Kim. Here at Advanced Eye Center, we offer all laser LASIK, clear lens exchange, specialty lenses with laser cataract surgery, as well as contacts and designer glasses. Our doctors handle a wide variety of vision problems for people of all ages and are skilled at providing fantastic solutions. Come see why we're voted best in Hall County year after year. Advanced Eye Center, vision correction for all ages.
Tune in to 2 hours of local football fun with the Pick'em Show, coach interviews, game previews, and general mayhem. So join Bo, Caleb, Jeff, and Walker Thursday nights at 6 on AM 550 and FM 102.9, or video stream them on YouTube at Access WDUN Sports. WDUN Gainesville, WDUN FM Clarksville, Gainesville. Always here, always local.
It's 9:30.
Fox
Fox News, I'm Therese Crowley. 3 weeks and no pay after Senate Democrats voted a 12th time to block a clean funding bill to reopen the government. Senate Republicans head for a White House strategy session with a plan to pay all essential workers for the duration. Senate Leader John Thune tells Fox.
That's air traffic control or TSA or Border Patrol, law enforcement, our troops, obviously, first and foremost. Those are all things that very shortly here are not going to get paid if we don't, the government doesn't open up.
A divided appeals panel in San Francisco rules President Trump can deploy Oregon National Guard after 100 nights of violence at the ICE facility. The New York Post urges Guardian Angels founder Curtis Sliwa to swallow the bitter pill and quit the New York mayor's race to give former Governor Andrew Cuomo a better chance to beat the socialist Democrat Zoran Mamdani. America's listening to Fox News.
Always here, always local.
From the Access WDUN Hardy Chevrolet Newsroom, I'm Steve Winslow. An injured hiker rescued in White County on Monday. WDUN's Lawson Smith reports.
According to White County, they were dispatched at around 2:30 p.m. to the Mount Yonah trailhead off of Chambers Road after a report of a hiker who had fallen down and was unable to move. They entered the trail and located the hiker roughly 1 mile up. A drone was deployed to provide overwatch and confirm the hiker's location. The hiker was rescued and transported by White County EMS to Northeast Georgia Medical Center Gainesville for further treatment.
Another candidate announces his intentions to run for Georgia's race for lieutenant governor. Greg Dolezal has told WDUN's Martha Zoller show this morning about what compelled him to run for the second highest seat at the state capitol.
I love state level policy. And the lieutenant governor, some people like to joke that all that he does is shakes the governor's hand to see if it's still warm. The job is more important than that. It really controls the flow of legislation. And so we've seen Burt Jones, as lieutenant governor, move some good conservative legislation through the Senate. And I would like to keep us headed in the same direction.
Current state senator from Georgia's 27th district out of Cummings says that he's a limited growth government supporter and hoping to limit any expansion of the state's lottery or possible gambling options. And the roars of table saws and pounding of hammers are just a few of the sounds and sights you'll see Wednesday at Chicopee Woods Agricultural Center of Gainesville. For more than 200 students will be taking part in the 9th annual Association General Contractors of Georgia's Skills Challenge. Full details at Access WDUN. Now here's your Access WDUN weather forecast.
Mostly sunny skies will give way to a bit more cloud cover into the afternoon, with scattered rain showers also possible. Highs in the lower 70s. From the Access WDUN Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Holly Strano.
In Lawrenceville, 53 degrees incoming, and Gainesville, 51. From North Georgia's News Talk, AM 550 and FM 102.9 WDUN.
Hello, I'm Greg Beatles, president of Your Atlanta Falcons, and also proud supporter of Eagle Ranch. My family and the Falcons have been involved with the ranch for many years. Eagle Ranch has expanded its services to meet the increased needs in our community, to include outpatient counseling, a day school program, a residential program, and other therapeutic services that are both affordable and accessible. Learn more at eagleranch.org. That's eagleranch.org.
Hi folks, Matt Hayes here from Hayes of Baldwin. If you're in the market for a new car, truck, or SUV, take a short drive and come see what North Georgia has to offer. We have 8 brands in one location, a great selection of pre-owned and manufacturer certified pre-owned vehicles. But that's not all. With 2 large service departments to take care of all your automotive needs, from maintenance, repairs, or just tires and checkups. Hayes offers friendly staff and excellent customer service. With over 50 years of a family-owned and operated business in North Georgia, come see what Hayes has to offer you. Hayes of Baldwin, just 3 miles north of Hall County on Highway 365.
Use the Access WDUN Talk and Text line, presented by M&R Rental at 770-535-2911, and be part of the conversation. From the Northeast Georgia Health System studio in downtown Gainesville, it's the Martha Zoller Show on AM 550 and FM 102.9 WDUN.
Jake, what we saw was Atlanta's mayor and his police chief profusely thanking the family of the suspect for averting what they believe could have been a mass shooting at the world's busiest airport by notifying authorities that something wasn't right. So let me give you the timeline of events here with the suspect, Billy Cagle, 49 years old. He's a convicted felon for marijuana possession more than 2 decades ago, and authorities say he had mental health challenges. So this started at 9:29 in the morning, where Billy Cagle vehicle. He's on video arriving there at the South Terminal. 2 minutes later, he leaves his car outside and then goes inside of the airport. The police chief here in Atlanta say that he was very interested in the TSA check-in area that was heavily crowded with travelers. Now, by 9:40 a.m., this is when Cartersville Police Department, an hour north of Atlanta, alerts APD that there's a potential threat because they were hearing from the family of the suspect that he was on social media streaming, that he was armed, that he was headed to the airport to, quote, shoot it up. Cartersville police saying that he had, quote, intention to inflict harm to as many people as he could. Now, by 9:54, he was arrested there on the ground, not armed. This would have been 15 minutes since that first call came in to APD. So a very quick effort here by authorities. It's unclear, Jake, if he has an attorney. We're, of course, making those phone calls and reaching out.
All right, Isabel Rosales.
So this was an amazing story yesterday. Logan, did you hear that come across the wire yesterday?
So I had heard about it. I didn't really hear much of the details about it before that clip we just played coming in here, but
pretty amazing.
Pretty
really?
amazing by all accounts there for the law enforcement who were able to quickly track that guy down. And like I said, it's Atlanta. It's a crowded airport. Obviously, the fact they were able to find him in such a quick 25 minutes. Things whenever he left his car by the time he got arrested. So they worked quickly and they were able to prevent something.
They worked quickly, and it really highlights that we have to be right every time. A crazy person only has to be right once, or a terrorist only has to be right once. And what happened was some family members, it's hard for a family member to say, you always want, if it's your loved one, you want to say, oh, it's not as bad as it seems, blah, blah, blah. But this family, for whatever reason, they said, okay, this is too much. They called their local police. Their local police called the Atlanta police, and then nobody sat on it. And obviously, you don't want to sit on it if it's something like this. And they got plenty of police down there at the airport. So I think it was an amazing story of getting things done quickly from the first call to him being in custody, 15 minutes. And thank God he went into, I've been watching too much police television to case the joint, because that's what he did. He was going in to see where the best place would be for him to start shooting. Right. So he didn't have the gun with him. So that gave, if he had just walked in with the gun, who knows, it would have been a whole different situation. I got to believe, though, that it would be pretty hard. I saw the way he was dressed. He had a pair of pants and a shirt on, basically.
Right, just dressed normally.
So I think there's I don't know, lately, when you pull up to the airport, there's police there right on the curb almost every time you pull up. I think it would be really hard to get in there with a gun, but you don't want to take any chances.
No, of course not. And like you said, I think it seemed like he was casing the joint, right? Looking around, said he was very interested in the CSA checkpoints, which means that he was trying to find
where
ways
the most people are.
Exactly. See which one, which gate had the most population there. And, credit to the family, I believe, who were, I'm assuming, watching his live stream on whatever platform that was, who then heard that threat, called it in, and they took care of business.
So about 10 years ago, there was a car bomb at the Belgium airport, Brussels airport, and a number of people were killed. And, one of the things they pointed out then, which is true at all airports, because of the security stuff that we have now, once you get in and out past a certain point, if he were to come in, or anyone were to come in and start shooting a crowd like that, there's nowhere to go. There's stanchions. You can't get out easily to a door. It would be a really right place. And I'm sure they're looking at this kind of stuff because they got to balance the security of being sure people aren't coming and going through security checkpoints with how can you make sure, if God forbid something like this happens, that people will be safe.
Like I said, it's very compact and crowded, especially in Atlanta, pretty much 24/7. Doesn't matter what day or time you go. You're going to have hundreds of thousands of people there.
I'd be interested to know what his angle was. Obviously his family said he had mental health issues, which I believe.
Right.
Because anybody that would take a gun into an airport like that has mental health issues. But it'd be interesting to know what he thought he was fighting. What he thought he was fighting. And I'm pretty sure, they're going to get more information now because a guy like that is probably going to be a murder-suicide where he would have done that and then killed himself. So we just don't know. But hooray and hats off to the local police, the APD, and everybody involved that they reacted so quickly. And I'm sure they've got some back channels that they call like this is not a drill, that you get the notification and you go through there. So anyway, great day for law enforcement. And so we got a couple of text messages in about Greg Dolezal, and somebody from Dawson County said, thanks for going over property taxes. I think maybe Cherokee County and Forsyth County have it right for now. Dawson County takes money from their seniors all the way to 70. Halta County does too, and beyond for school tax. And believe we should do away with property taxes altogether. Thanks for bringing Greg on. Great show. So, it's thank you. It's good to have him on. I'm going to have all the candidates on. And if you have a candidate that you like that I haven't talked to yet, okay, just send me their name and I'll try to reach out to them. But I got to tell you, the folks have been pretty good at reaching out to me. I mean, Greg's team reached out to me. Also, we're going to have Blake Tillery on later on in the program. So, it's fantastic to be able to hear from folks and do the things that we need to do related to getting the information out about voting. Now, let's put a pin in that, and that's for 2026. We've got early voting going on right now in 2025. And I went in yesterday. I had my Rotary Club meeting, and Tim Evans from the Hall County Chamber was making a presentation. And I got to tell you, I am totally blown away with all the businesses that are coming to Hall County and the way we're expanding. We are the best small metropolitan area, and we are the only area in the sort of donut of the Metro Atlanta that is its own what's called MSA, which is I think it's called a Metropolitan Statistical Area is what that stands for. But we're kind of our own city in addition to that. I love the growth. My husband's very different. My husband doesn't want to see another person come in here. Okay, so we're kind of a house divided on that one. But I had mentioned to Carol Colon, who runs our club, that's really what she does, that, hey, maybe we ought to mention that early voting, because we were meeting in the Civic Center, which is one of the voting places. So I want to tell you a few things. There are 4 voting places. When I was coming out of the station yesterday, there was a guy that was asking me where to vote. And so I gave him the 4 locations or 5 locations that there are in Hall County. During early voting, okay, you can vote anywhere. You don't have to vote in your precinct. So you can vote at the Civic Center, you can vote in Lula, you can vote at the South Hall Community Center, the North Hall Community Center. I think there's 5 total locations. Look those up. You can ask Mr. Google and an AI will come up with the list, or you can look it up in the Hall County Elections Office. And we probably have it on Access WDUN also somewhere in our voter page. But there are great ways to go ahead and early vote. I went down, took me 2 minutes to vote. You put in your information. You don't even have to fill out a form anymore. You just give them your driver's license. They put the driver's license and scan it. They pull up your information. They ask you if it's correct. They program your card. You go in there, you vote, you come back through again. You put your ballot in, and it's all good. On my ballot, all I had was the 2 PSC races and the Splost vote. Okay, and I voted yes for Splost, and I voted for Tim Eccles and Fitz Johnson. Okay, and I don't mind telling you because I've already voted. But you need to get out and vote with early voting. Early voting is till the end of next Friday, end of next week, and then the following Tuesday will be the election. And for me, I'm traveling that week, so I needed to early vote so that we would get in to voting. Okay, so it'll be great there. You can join us on the phones at 770-535-2911. We love you to be a part of the program. Get out and vote early. This Public Service Commission race is extremely important. And let me just, I really don't think that the Public Service Commission should be partisan, but it is, okay? And I think that the thing you need to understand is that if the Democrats get back in to the Public Service Commission, they're going to want to undo a lot of the things that were done. We've spent too much money on Plant Vogel to have anything get in its way. Okay, and we need to have that third and fourth reactor built too. And I know you don't want to hear that because it's going to cost money, but nuclear is the future. Okay, nuclear is the future. But if you didn't like the Green New Deal, then you don't want a Democrat on the PSC. Okay, so I think the things that you need to do is make sure you get out and vote for Tim Echols and Fitz Johnson, or vote for the Democrat if you want to. But get out and vote. Don't make it where there was such a low turnout that we don't really know what people felt about things. Okay? I want people to get out and vote because I want the election results to represent the most people. Okay? Because then you don't have as many problems as you might have. You know, these folks that did the No Kings rally over the weekend, you know, bottom line is, you know, it's a frustrating thing because I don't think they knew what they were protesting. They did show up. A few 100,000 people showed up. There might have even been 1 million. There were not 7 million. Okay, I'm going to go with the Wall Street Journal estimate because they're really not a political newspaper. I know what you're saying. Oh, the Murdoch people own that too. But the Wall Street Journal is not a political newspaper, and they will criticize the administration. They will criticize people that are not in the administration. They're a capitalist newspaper. That's what they are. So they said around 700,000, so I'm going to go with that number. I still want to see an explanation, which I haven't seen, of why is it that no one has said anything more about that fake picture in Boston. They're still posting. The Dem accounts are still posting that fake picture in Boston as being a real picture. Now, it is a real picture from 2017, and how you know that is all the trees are green. Okay, instead of being the leaves changing. I mean, it is late October in New England. There would be a lot of colored leaves if that was a picture from that actual day. We'll take a break.
In North Georgia,
it's the topics that matter to me.
We're your eyes and ears in the community with the latest breaking news.
It's the most important thing we face.
AM 550 and FM 102.9 WDUN. Always here, always local.
Slow down and listen. This is Mike Martin with a thought from God's Word. Psalms 46:10 says for us to be still and know that I'm God. I remember going to my grandmother's house and listening to her talk about Jesus. She told me the only way to grow closer to Him was to do the following. Number 1, find out who Christ is. Examining God's Word would give me the best understanding of who God is. Number 2, fellowship with Him more intimately. This means spending quality time along with Him every day. Number 3, follow Jesus Christ's example. The Holy Spirit will instruct me how to follow Christ and obey His Word. Number 4, faithfully claim His promises and trust Him to fulfill them. The only way I can claim His promises is to dig into His Word and practice the 3 previous points before I can succeed at this one. These thoughts brought to you by the staff at Milton Martin Toyota, your oldest Toyota dealership in Georgia. Come see us at Milton Martin Toyota or visit us on the web at www.miltonmartintoyota.com.
Innovation at Jackson EMC.
To me, innovation is taking technology and doing something new with it.
I'm working with a global company. We're helping them be able to reduce their carbon footprint through some of our programs.
Here at Jackson EMC, we embrace innovation, such as solar power, electric vehicle programs, energy-efficient right choice homes. Jackson EMC, innovation for today, innovation for tomorrow.
There's nothing like cool, crisp air of fall in North Georgia after a hot, humid summer. Conditioned Air Systems is here to get your HVAC system ready for the changing seasons. With regular maintenance that saves you money on your energy bill, and look no further for quick, reliable plumbing repairs or installation services. Conditioned Air Systems has been a trusted name in Northeast Georgia for over 45 years. Call us today at 1-800-AC-REPAIR.
Good food and good folks make a good meal. You bring the folks and we'll take care of the food. This is Grant Nichols. At Loretta's Country Kitchen, we use only top quality ingredients like our new Springer Mountain chicken tenders. They're bigger than other tenders and are locally raised, so they're always fresh. Speaking of fresh, we have an entire walk-in cooler dedicated just to fresh produce. That's why we say at Loretta's, it's all good. For breakfast, lunch, and dinner, it's Loretta's Country Kitchen, Mundy Mill Road in Oakwood.
Always here, always local.
From the Access WDUN Hardy Chevrolet newsroom, a Denver man takes a stolen excavator for a weekend joyride and faces DUI and theft charges in Habersham County. Details at Access WDUN and coming up on North Georgia's News Talk.
It's the Martha Zoller Show, presented by Gainesville Mechanical. From the Northeast Georgia Health System studio in downtown Gainesville on AM 550 and FM 102.9 WDUN.
Take their money while they were waiting, because right now it's hard to imagine it's incentivized. It's easier for the politicians in D.C. to go away from each other and say, we will win this way, while people are losing their paychecks. If Congress just said, we're not going to take our paychecks till we figure this out, that would be a noble step in the right direction, I would say.
That's not everybody can afford to do. You got some young people there with kids there.
Either can the people that aren't getting paid, though,
I think
and
that's
there's
a fair
holdout.
point. I think that's a fair point.
So that's Bernie Sanders again, you know. And the woman on The View, I don't know who she is. I think she's the new girl. She says, you know, you guys should not take a paycheck while you're dealing with this. And he says, well, some people can't afford to do that. I don't really care if you as a congressman or a senator can afford to do it when you are asking other people, because you Democrats won't vote for cloture. There are enough votes to open the government back up. Okay? There are enough votes to open the government back up. And we ought to get through cloture and get this government opened back up. Let's go to the phones now and talk to Doug in Gainesville. Hey, Doug, how you doing?
Hey, good morning.
Positive Doug. Positive Doug.
You got it. And, hey, I'm always going to start my calls to you to show the power of radio and social media against legacy media. You are spreading the message every day that's so important. Anyway, I just want to make a quick observation about the No Kings, because I'm constantly saying to myself, how do I cope with these people? Because they get me angry at first, of course, because they're not smart. But I came down to, I think I have a conclusion. These people are very fearful. They're full of fear, and so you can see it. They make up statistics that are unproven. They make up claims that haven't come to fruition. They'll say things, well, not yet, not yet. They're like cornered animals. And so I think the best way to deal with them when you meet somebody like this is to pity them, is to look at them and say, why are you so afraid? And let them then be quiet and let them explain, and maybe they can look at their heart, and there's nothing to be afraid of. Ask them, in your next 24 hours, please tell me exactly what Trump or the Republicans are doing that have affected your life. You're still getting up, you're having breakfast, you're going to work. So, again, I would like to get along with these people and change some minds. And,
well, I mean, they're going to protest. They're doing what they want to do. What's interesting to me, and this is really true, this 20% of the electorate that's very liberal hasn't changed in 25 years. They've gotten older, but they haven't changed. And what bothers me the most about them is that they think with emotion. Well, it feels like this is happening. Well, you got to step back from that. And you need to say, okay, it may feel like this is happening, but what is actually happening? Feelings.
Well, that's what I'm saying. It's fear. It's fear. It's all emotions. And listen to how their leaders feed into their emotions. All they do is self-fear. You're going to lose this. You're going to lose that. They're going to take this away from you. If that isn't fear and emotional mongering, what is it? And so shame on their politicians, and shame on them for not being critical thinkers and saying, what are they selling me here? This is ridiculous. And last point, definitely an older group. I've never seen so many old gray-haired people that look like me carrying stupid signs. Anyway, love you,
Thank you,
Martha.
thank you.
You're the best.
And look, and people like AOC and Bernie Sanders and Ilhan Omar and all of these folks, Blumenthal from Connecticut, they just want to whip up that emotion. They don't want you to be okay. Okay, they want you to be afraid because that's all they have. You know, if I were advising Democrats, which I'm not going to be doing, but, you know, I would if they asked me. I've had this conversation with Mike Thurman. That may not help him that you know that, but he is in kind of the same mindset here. Democrats have got to have a positive agenda of what they want to get done instead of we hate Trump. Trump's going to be gone in 2 years. Okay, he has remade this party. Okay, and I think it will still be very much in his image for a long time, kind of the way it was in Reagan's image for a long time. I'm not comparing Trump to Reagan. They're two completely different people. But Trump's actually a lot more like Teddy Roosevelt than he was like Ronald Reagan. But Teddy Roosevelt remade the Republican Party for a number of years. There's people that come along that reshape a party. Okay, I think John Kennedy would have done that for the Democrats if he had lived longer, because he was really more of a conservative Democrat and he was a pro-America Democrat. I think it is the funniest thing I've seen is that these groups have gone from burning the flag to waving the flag, and maybe that's a step in the right direction, that they have understood. Maybe one message they've gotten is that their kind of hate America rhetoric that they had before wasn't working. Because when you listen to Bernie Sanders, I mean, literally, when I listen to Bernie Sanders for many reasons, I just want to like go in the corner and slit my wrists, okay? Because he says everything is bad in America. Everything is bad in America when you listen to Bernie Sanders. I'm looking out here of a beautiful window of a fantastic community where the leaves are changing and people are going to work and they're doing things. It's not a terrible place to live. America is a wonderful place to live. And then it asks the basic question: why would you live here if you think it's so bad? If you really think it's as bad as you're saying it is, why would you live here? And that's the same question I would ask. You know, I saw a bunch of people that identified themselves as immigrants speaking at these rallies. And I was thinking to myself, you came here of your own free will. You weren't just born here. I understand that when you're born here and your family's here, you might not feel like you can leave. I get that. I wouldn't want to leave, but I understand that. Someone who chose to come here, who sought citizenship, and they're saying these things about the country, when none of this stuff has happened that they're saying, they're just saying it might happen. Well, you know, a meteor could hit us tomorrow, and it's all over. And the guy that is running for New York mayor became a citizen in 2018. It's not that I think that someone who's an immigrant, there have been plenty of immigrants or sons of immigrants that have run New York City. But this guy has not shown that he's loyal to America and how you can elect him. And right now there's this big fight between Andrew Cuomo and Curtis Sliwa. I mean, Megyn Kelly's on the Curtis Sliwa side. She thinks Cuomo should get out and Sliwa stays in. But, you know, they have enough votes between them and the undecideds to beat Mamdani. I don't know if they can, though. We'll be back.
Waste Eliminator is a full-service waste management company providing critical disposal, recycling, and environmental solutions for business and residential clients. From large-scale commercial projects to smaller residential cleanups, Waste Eliminator offers reliable dumpster rental service tailored to your needs. Whether you're tackling a renovation, new construction, or even a simple home cleanout, Waste Eliminator will manage the waste efficiently and sustainably. Visit online at wasteeliminator.com.
You're still glowing, flirting, grooving. You still got it. But your immune system weakens as you age, making it harder to fight flu, pneumococcal pneumonia, RSV, and COVID-19. Vaccines are a key part of any health routine and help strengthen your immune response. Ask your doctor or pharmacist which vaccines you need. Schedule in minutes at vaxassist.com. Sponsored by Pfizer.
It all comes down to this, folks.
Yep, the entire season is on the line. But my throat has officially thrown in the towel.
Sounds like you need Vicks VapoCool drops. They're max strength and vaporize sore throat pain.
Whoa! These VapoCool drops hit fast.
Speaking of fast, did you just see that play?
Yeah, he vaporized that ball.
That pun should have come with a penalty.
Vaporize sore throat pain with Vicks VapoCool drops. Use as directed.
WDUN Gainesville, WDUN FM Clarksville, Gainesville. Always here, always local.
It's 10 o'clock.
He'll meet with families still grieving.
I'm Dave Anthony, Fox News. Vice President Vance is in Israel, where they still wait for the bodies of the last 15 hostages Hamas has still not handed over after a flare-up of deadly fighting over the weekend.
We've had it with the breaches of the ceasefire. We will enforce it. Our heroic soldiers will defend us if a threat arises.
That's Shosh Bedrosian, the spokesperson for the Prime Minister. Vance has been meeting with Benjamin Netanyahu, trying to keep that ceasefire deal in place. On day 21 of the government shutdown, President Trump will have lunch with Senate Republicans as a stalemate over funding continues. They're ready to push a new bill to pay federal workers deemed essential and have to keep working without checks.
Democrats have pushed for President Trump to get involved. However, House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries says the bill for federal workers is not the right approach, as it does not address their sticking points like health care concessions.
Fox's Madeline Rivera. The president may be closer to sending National Guard troops to Portland, Oregon. An appeals court upholds his authority to do so. Fox's Rich Edson's at the White House.
The order cites periodic violence and protests at an ICE facility in Portland as justification for President Trump's decision to deploy the National Guard there. Attempts to burn down the building and breach the front doors, and protesters throwing rocks, sticks, and fireworks at federal officers. Local leaders in Oregon say police there have handled the protests and arrested those who've broken the law.
Another judge's order, though, has blocked the deployment of those National Guard troops, and that's still in effect. 2 weeks before Election Day in New York City, the Republican running for mayor, Curtis Sliwa, a distant third in the polls, keeps resisting calls growing louder to stop running.
I am not dropping out under no circumstance. I've already been offered money to drop out. I said no.
Sliwa, hours after the New York Post joined the calls for him to leave the race, fearing he'll be a spoiler and help Zoran Mamdani win. The socialist Democrat President Trump calls a communist. Mamdani has a double-digit lead over former Governor Andrew Cuomo. America's listening to Fox News.
Always here, always local.
From the Access WDUN Hardy Chevrolet Newsroom, I'm Steve Winslow. Another candidate for lieutenant governor in Georgia is making his intentions known to voters. State Senator Greg Dolezal from Cumming joined WDUN's Martha Zoller last hour and let it be known that while he's conservative with his beliefs, one point of his policy is to keep government growth at a minimum.
I'm a limited government conservative. I don't happen to wake up in the morning and think, we need 50 more laws in the state of Georgia. And so I would like to see us continue to move the needle on being a roadblock to a certain extent on some of the bad pieces of legislation that we see come, frankly, from both sides of the aisle.
Dolezal says he wants limited expansion to the state's lottery and to try to prevent gambling growth in Georgia. And more on Martha's interview with Greg Dolezal can be found at Access WDUN. An injured hiker was rescued in White County on Monday. WDUN's Lawson Smith with this report.
According to White County, they were dispatched at around 2:30 p.m. to the Mount Yonah trailhead off of Chambers Road after a report of a hiker who had fallen down and was unable to move. They entered the trail and located the hiker roughly 1 mile up. A drone was deployed to provide overwatch and confirm the hiker's location. The hiker was rescued and transported by White County EMS to Northeast Georgia Medical Center Gainesville for further treatment. The incident wrapped up at around 4:30 p.m.
Police have arrested a 49-year-old Cartersville man, Billy Cagle, arrested at Atlanta's Hartsfield-Jackson International Airport Monday morning, allegedly for threatening to shoot up the world's busiest airport. Atlanta Police Chief Darren Shirebaum has said that it was the family of Cagle who alerted Cartersville police of his intentions.
That he was streaming on social media, that he was headed to the airport, in their words, to shoot it up. And the family stated that he was in possession of an assault rifle.
The suspect was arrested inside the airport, where he was taken into custody and faces multiple charges. And Georgia's capital city ranks near the bottom of WalletHub's 2025 Safest Cities of America list. GNN's Rebecca Hughes explains.
The report compared 182 cities using indicators like violent crime rates, road safety, unemployment levels, and disaster preparedness. Warwick, Rhode Island was named the safest city, followed by Overland Park, Kansas, and Burlington, Vermont in the top three, while New Orleans, Louisiana ranked as the least safe, followed by Memphis, Tennessee, and Baton Rouge.
There's more news online at Access WDUN. Now here's your Access WDUN Tuesday forecast.
Mostly sunny skies, but they will give way to a bit more cloud cover into the afternoon. A heads up with scattered rain showers also possible this afternoon. Highs in the lower 70s. Enjoy the sunshine for now. From the Access WDUN Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Holly Strano.
In Beaufort, 58 degrees, Dillard, 56, and in Gainesville, 57. From North Georgia's News Talk, AM 550 and FM 102.9 WDUN.
This fall, give your lawn and food plots the winning edge with Limelight Pro. Now at Farmers Exchange in Cleveland. Limelight Pro is a premium, fast-acting pelletized lime that helps balance soil pH, unlock nutrients, and boost plant growth. Easy to spread, quick to work, and perfect for a fall application. Whether growing grass, gardens, or game plots, get the results you want with Limelight Pro. Farmers Exchange, your hometown partner for a stronger, greener season.
I'm Frank Norton with the Norton Agency. One thing I've learned in my 42 years in the real estate business is that Americans are not comfortable with haggling and negotiations. We're by and large not a bartering society, but we at Norton do that every day. Our professional advocates' number one priority is to get the buyer or seller the best price. You need Norton now more than ever. Call us at 770-532-0022 or look for us on the web at gonorton.com. Our family serving North Georgia for 4 generations.
Talking about the issues that affect you most. It's the Martha Zoller Show, presented by Gainesville Mechanical. Now from the Northeast Georgia Health System studio in downtown Gainesville, here's Martha Zoller on AM 550 and FM 102.9 WDUN. Always here, always local.
Georgia's future depends on reliable, affordable energy and strong conservative leadership. Tim Echols and Fitz Johnson have frozen energy rates below the national average for the next 3 years, advocating for ratepayers and keeping costs low for hardworking Georgians. Democrats will raise prices for Georgia families by as much as $800 a year. Tim Echols and Fitz Johnson are fighting for you, protecting families, keeping energy affordable, and putting Georgia first. Vote Tim Echols and Fitz Johnson, Republican leadership you can trust. Early voting has started and Election Day is November 4th.
It is the Martha Zoller Show, and it is early voting between now and next Friday. Election Day is the following Tuesday. I'm going to be out of town, and so I've already voted early. Josh McKoon is here with me right now. He's the chairman of the Georgia GOP. Josh, welcome back to the program.
Good morning, Martha.
So I've just been, kind of pounding the pavement about how you got to make sure you get out to vote. Like on my ballot, I don't have any municipal races. I went ahead and voted. I know there's a lot of people out there that either because there isn't opposition in their municipal races or other reasons, they think there's nothing to vote for. But there's a lot to vote for, isn't there?
Absolutely, Martha, and I appreciate you highlighting this for your audience because a lot of people aren't aware an election is going on. This has to do with a lot of federal litigation that we've got this weird odd-year election. But there are 2 statewide races for the Georgia Public Service Commission. This is the state agency that regulates utilities like Georgia Power, telecommunications companies like AT&T. It's incredibly important, and we have currently unanimous Republican control of the Public Service Commission, and Democrats are trying to change that. And unfortunately, the only people that are voting regularly this year are people voting in municipal elections around the state. And we know that sort of gives a built-in edge to the Democrats. So it's really important for people in your situation that don't have anything else on the ballot to turn out for Tim Echols and Fitz Johnson.
Well, at our Rotary Club yesterday, we had Tim Evans, who's head of the Greater Hall Chamber of Commerce, and he intentionally finished the meeting early so those of us that wanted to could go down and vote because we happened to be in an early voting location. So they were so funny because it was like a rush of about 30 people that came to vote all at one time. And the guy says, this is the longest line we've had all day. So they had actually had about I was 405th voter that day, which I think was pretty good for the Civic Center on a early voting day. But it's still, we need a lot more people to go out and vote.
Yeah, this is just so important in terms of, we all take for granted in Georgia that when we flip the switch, the lights are going to turn on. We don't have rolling blackouts like California does. And that's because we've had good conservative leadership on our commission that's made sure that we have a good mix of energy sources that are reliable. It's one of the big reasons that businesses come to Georgia is they know we've got good, healthy energy infrastructure. And, let's be honest about this too, Martha. If either Democrat were to win one of these races, it would be a blood-in-the-water moment to begin the 2026 cycle. So there are lots of good policy reasons to vote for Tim and Fitz, but there are also some very good political reasons as well. So people just need to get out. There's no excuse, as you point out. There are no lines, no waiting, plenty of time this week and next week to vote, including Election Day on Tuesday, November 4th.
Well, and I want to just point out an example of why the PSC is important, okay? So even in red Texas, okay, that has a little different structure than they do on how they handle energy. They've gone a little more into the renewables than a lot of folk, would think for a red state like Texas, because they do have some Democrats on their board. I think they call it a board or something, but it's a little different structure, but it's similar. And remember 3 years ago when we had that really long cold snap that happened? Texas ran out of power, okay? Even Texas. California did too. And they ran out of power because they didn't have an all-in strategy. We have an all-in strategy where the last time we had a cold snap like that, yes, we used all the way to coal to be sure that the power was on for people, because you need that heat. And it's not that we're not using renewables and we're not trying to be as clean as we can. Lord knows we're the leader in nuclear energy. But when there's a crisis, like power goes out because of a hurricane, or you have a cold snap, or any other number of things, we have an all-in strategy that's going to make sure you as a ratepayer are going, if you're out of power, it's for the shortest amount of time. I think the average time is an hour and a half, okay, or you don't go out of power at all.
Absolutely. I mean, it's one of these things you don't notice until it doesn't work, right? And that doesn't just happen. It takes good leadership. It takes people that are willing to hold powerful utility companies accountable to make sure that when they're planning for 10 years out, 20 years out, obviously if you have a demand surge, you can't suddenly make more power available. You've got to be smart in this long-range planning, and that's what's been so good about the Republican majority on our Public Service Commission. And, many people will remember when Democrats controlled everything in Georgia, the first breakthrough for Georgia Republicans was winning a Public Service Commission statewide election. And so we do not want to get into a situation going into next year where Democrats, who are already going to flood the state with out-of-state money, special interest money, that it gets even worse because they see some kind of hope out of one of these races. So it's really important to continue the good, solid leadership we have, to make Georgia Energy continue to be reliable, to continue our position as the number one state to do business in. There's a lot at stake in this election, and that's why voting for Tim Echols and Fitz Johnson is so important.
And let's shift gears a little bit to the government shutdown. And what I have also been telling people is that what you want to do is you want to call Senator Warnock and Senator Ossoff's offices in Atlanta, okay? Because the office in D.C. doesn't care. They don't care because they'll just move to the next office. If John Ossoff gets beaten, which I hope that he will in next November, they're going to move to another job. So they're not going to take your call as seriously as the local office does. So you need to call the Warnock and Ossoff office. And I've heard you guys are doing that. They're getting flooded with phone calls saying, hey, we need to turn the government back on. But there are also 6 states that are out there. There's Michigan, Nevada, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, and then Arizona's an independent senator, but they all have senators up for re-election next year. And you call those offices too, and I will get you those names. So get ready for that in the next segment. But we've got a lot of work to do to hold on to this majority and to expand it, and that's what we need to do.
Absolutely. It is unbelievable that as you and I are talking, we've had 3 weeks now of the government being closed because Democrats want to force spending an additional $1.5 trillion on a failed Obamacare system that doesn't work. I mean, the reason that they introduced these subsidies in the first place is that ordinary people on regular incomes can't afford these health insurance policies. Now, we need, some smart people to get together and talk about how we improve health care access. But spending $1.5 trillion that we don't have is no solution at all. Well, Democrats, I'm sorry.
No, but there's a couple of cracks in the armor, if you will. Yesterday on the Jon Stewart show, Jon Stewart confronted Bernie Sanders and said, when you keep giving these subsidies, all you do is drive the cost up. Jon Stewart said that to Bernie Sanders. And then yesterday or the day before on The View, he was confronted by, why don't you forego your paychecks while this is going on? His answer was, well, some of the younger members can't afford that. And the new woman that's on The View said, well, there are people right now that are going without paychecks and they can't afford it either. And all he could say was, fair point, fair point. But there's a lot of things going on. And Josh, we have the votes to open the government up. What we don't have is the votes for cloture. And in the old days, even the people that were going to vote no on something would vote for cloture so that the debate could go on.
Absolutely. And the only thing that's changed from March, when Democrats voted for the very same continuing resolution that was put up this time, is their political calculus. They think that it benefits them to shut the government down, and they don't care about the collateral effects on real people. All they care about is the next election. And, you know, this president has been winning so much. There's been so many good things that have happened in this administration. They're desperate to slow down his momentum. That's what this is really about. And so John Ossoff is going to be on the ballot next year. And if he wants to be, accountable to the people of the state, he ought to do what the vast majority of them want him to do and vote to reopen the government.
So I've been kind of trolling Representative Roman, who's running for governor. You know, she's like the farthest progressive person that's running for governor on the Democrat side. I've been kind of trolling her to drop out of the governor's race and to primary John Ossoff, because I just want to see how far left he'll go if that happens. So I'm just like...
Yeah, there's... One thing we know is that he'll be whatever he needs to be to get elected.
That's right.
You know?
That's right.
And they share a lot of views when it comes to the state of Israel, though. So she'd have some difficulty standing out in that Senate primary.
So again, early voting for the 25 election goes through the end of next week. Check your local county listings as far as where those voting places are. What's important to know about that is you can vote at any of the early voting places, okay? You don't have to be in your district because they're not everywhere. I wish, Josh, honestly, we could do that everywhere. I mean, if you're registered in Georgia, you should be able to vote anywhere, but that's another discussion for another day. We want to also make sure that you guys, if you don't get out for early voting, that you get out on Tuesday the 4th and vote on Election Day. Josh, we got to get the folks out to vote.
Absolutely. It's critically important. You know, Tim Echols' opponent is endorsed by the Working Families Party. These are the same people behind Mondami in New York. These are radical left-wing Democrats. These are not your grandfather's Democrats. Yes. So we need to make sure we keep conservative Republicans in control of our Public Service Commission.
Absolutely. Josh McKoon, chairman of the Georgia GOP, thank you for being with me today.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. We'll take a break, and there's lots more to come.
On Tuesday's edition of The Drive at 5, we'll let you hear from Georgia Lieutenant Governor and candidate for governor Burt Jones on his trip to Gainesville. Join us at 5 o'clock here on North Georgia's News Talk, WDUN.
With over 5 decades of experience providing top-quality dermatology care in Northeast Georgia, Dermatology Associates of Northeast Georgia is your trusted partner in keeping your skin healthy and beautiful. Our comprehensive range of medical, cosmetic, and surgical services, including Mohs surgery, is designed to meet all your dermatology needs. Book your annual full skin exam today at any of our 3 convenient locations in Gainesville, Demarest, or Dahlonega. Visit us online at negeorgiaderm.com to learn more.
It's Mike Robertson of Oakwood Tire and More. As our name suggests, we can handle all your tire needs, but some have asked what we mean when we say and more. At Oakwood Tire, we're more than just tires. We also handle general repair. We handle alignments, brakes, AC service, suspension work. Speaking of suspension work, if you're looking to upgrade your ride, we can put tires, wheels, lift kit, anything like that on there. See us at www.oakwoodtire.com. Stop by at 3120 Atlanta Highway, where we're more than just tires.
Hey folks, Todd Starnes here. When it comes to keeping pests out of your home, Mark Turner at Select Pest Control has it figured out. As the name implies, you get to select whether you want their professional team to take care of those pesky pests, or if you'd rather do it yourself, visit their retail store on Brownsbridge Road in Gainesville. Since 1993, Mark and his great staff have offered professional service, products, and advice to North Georgia. Visit them online at selectpest.net, or better yet, stop by Select Pest Control today and tell them Todd sent you.
Cold weather will be here before you know it. At the same time, power outages are on the rise. So here's an important question. If the power goes out when it's really cold, do you have a way to stay warm? If not, you've got to check out the Avesta off-grid space heater from My Patriot Supply. It's a compact, portable space heater that doesn't use electricity. It runs on something called canned heat, which is an indoor safe fuel. It's completely off-grid, and it can heat up a 200 square foot room in a matter of minutes. With Avesta stashed in your closet, you can rest easy, knowing you and your family will stay warm, even if the power goes out. Plus, it doubles as a stove to boil water or cook food without electricity or propane. The best part is, you can get Avesta and a bunch of other free gifts when you order the Winter Prep Special from My Patriot Supply. Just go to MyPatriotSupply.com to see everything included. This offer won't last long, and neither will this nice fall weather, so go to MyPatriotSupply.com today. That's MyPatriotSupply.com.
Always here, always local.
From the Access WDUN Hardy Chevrolet newsroom, a hiker is stranded, injured, and later rescued by White County safety crews from the Yonah Mountain Trailway Monday. Details at Access WDUN and coming up on North Georgia's News Talk.
Use the Access WDUN talk and text line, presented by M&R Rental at 770-535-2911, and be part of the conversation. From the Northeast Georgia Health System studio in downtown Gainesville, it's the Martha Zoller Show on AM 550 and FM 102.9 WDUN.
It is the Martha Zoller Show, and, traditionally, Republicans have paid for government shutdowns. But we are now in the second week of this government shutdown, and the numbers are in Trump's favor. Harry Enton, who's my favorite pollster at CNN, said this.
They weaponized the government against the American people. And now they want to turn around and say they're going to have a No Kings rally? This is the dying breath of a bankrupt party, in my humble opinion. All too happy to shut down the government and then have a Chicago teacher walk around with this symbol against her neck. Somebody tell me how that's appropriate. Where are the Democrats that are crying out about how horrific that was? And by the way, where are the Democrats who are calling out the Attorney General in Virginia for calling on the death of children of a political opponent?
So that was Chip Roy. Sorry, I'll have the pollster a little bit later on in the program, but Chip Roy brought up a good point about some of this No Kings protesting stuff. And the teachers' unions were the people. It was all the usual suspects. Trump hasn't done anything related to public education. Yes, he's gotten rid of a lot of things in the federal Department of Education. But I can tell you from the Georgia State Department of Education perspective, we're not doing with any less money on the important programs. The programs related to reading, related to special education, related to things that actually help children, they haven't gone away. But the Department of Education, just like every other department in the federal government, had a whole bunch of stuff that had nothing to do with things. And oh, by the way, did you hear that President Trump has come up with a plan that will forgive student loans, okay, and that will allow people to get their student loan forgiven over a 10-year period, but they have to meet certain criteria. Nobody's writing about that. Nobody's looking at any of those things. So, folks, we've got to fight really hard to get the truth out. And I'll be honest with you, I'm tired of fighting. I am tired of fighting with the group of people over here that are totally driven by emotion. Okay, and then the group of people over here that have facts behind them. And they're not all just straight line conservative and Democrat and liberal. But there's a lot of liberals out there, and I'd love for y'all to challenge me on this. This would be fine. But there's a lot of liberals out there that are just talking about their feelings. I feel like this could happen. If Donald Trump was a king, you wouldn't be protesting. Okay? If Donald Trump was a king, you wouldn't have the freedom to do the things you do. Oh, well, they might go away. Well, that's true. Freedoms can go away anytime. But I don't understand how you can say this is a threat to democracy. When we went through the election after, 1 million blockades were thrown in Donald Trump's way, as well as someone tried to assassinate him or, shot him and tried to assassinate him. And he kept on going, and he won the popular vote, he won the Electoral College, and he won all the swing states. He won an election. You're the guys that replaced your candidate in midstream that didn't have a single primary vote in 2024. In 2020, you're the guys that didn't want Bernie Sanders to be the nominee. And so you rigged it with superdelegates so that you could have a different nominee in Joe Biden. Okay? You're the guys that in 2016, you didn't want, again, Bernie Sanders. I'd feel bad. I don't know why Bernie Sanders is still loyal with these people. But they didn't want Bernie Sanders, so they rigged the superdelegates so that Hillary Clinton would be the nominee. And they talk about us. The KKK was Democrats. Okay, they were all Democrats. There were no Republicans that were in the KKK. It was started by the Democratic Party after the Civil War was over. And up until Robert KKK Byrd, it was all Democrats that did the KKK. It's a very interesting thing. Go to Democrats.org. It's a very interesting thing. They don't talk about any of that history. They say they were for the civil rights of black people for 200 years. That's a flat out lie. Democrats were they were the slave owners. Okay? The Republican Party was formed as an abolition party. So look, I've gone through this history before, okay? I've gone through this history before. And there are a lot of things that happen. And again, I'm not saying Democrats are bad people. Just don't misunderstand me with that. I'm not saying that. But we've got a lot of issues. Okay, so we've got that audio now about the Trump shutdown. I called up the wrong one. It's amazing to think how they're doing. We'll play at least some of it. I think we got enough time to get it. Let's go.
About Donald Trump shutdowns, net approval rating, we're talking 20 days into it. In 2018/2019, Donald Trump's net approval rating was already falling. The shutdown was eating into his popular support. It was down 3 points already at this particular point and would fall considerably more. It was very much on the decline. You come over to this side of the screen, this shutdown hasn't eaten into Donald Trump's support at all. His net approval rating is actually up a point in terms of his popular support. So the bottom line is this. The first shutdown during Trump's first term, 2018-2019, was hurting Donald Trump. This one is not hurting him at all. There's no real reason Donald Trump might say, at least when it comes to popular support, I want to get out of this shutdown.
What about the question of blame?
Yeah, okay. What about the question of blame? Okay, you see Donald Trump's net approval rating was down 2018 to 2019. You talk about 2025 as net approval rating is up. It comes down to the blame game, a game I loved to play when I was younger. Blame Trump for the shutdown a great deal. In 2018/2019, 61%, more than 3 in 5 Americans, blame Trump a great deal for that particular shutdown. You come over to this side of the screen, look at this. It's a different world. It's a different world.
So it's a different world, folks. We're on the right track, and we got to keep fighting. We'll be back.
Some car dealers want to sell you a car. At Hardy Chevrolet, we'd rather help you find the vehicle that's right for you. This is Mike Cormier. We call it the Hardy Chevrolet difference. Since you're the one who will be in the driver's seat of that new Chevy, we think you should be in the driver's seat when it comes to making the selection. It's like Charles Hardy always said.
We love you and we need you.
Together, let's drive. At Hardy Chevrolet, Browns Bridge Road in Gainesville, online at hardychevrolet.com.
Hey, can you blow up some balloons for Jack's party?
I can't. I'm so congested.
You need Sinex Severe from Vicks.
Sinex Severe nasal spray.
Yeah, just Sinex. Breathe.
Sinex Severe instantly relieves nasal congestion and works 6 times faster than nasal decongestant tablets. The 12 hours of relief allow you to get back to the moments that matter without congestion.
Daddy, we need more balloons.
On it.
Try Sinex Severe from Vicks. Just Sinex. Breathe. Use as directed.
Hear that? That's Mike. He took ZzzQuil Ultra, so now he's sleeping soundly on a Sunday night. ZzzQuil Ultra helps Mike fall asleep fast, stay asleep longer, and get the deeply restorative sleep he needs, so he can wake up refreshed and ready to conquer Monday.
Let's do this Monday.
ZzzQuil Ultra. Not for colds, just for sleep. really great sleep. Use as directed. Keep out of reach of children.
Tune in to 2 hours of local football fun with the Pick'em Show, coach interviews, game previews, and general mayhem. So join Bo, Caleb, Jeff, and Walker Thursday nights at 6 on AM 550 and FM 102.9, or video stream them on YouTube at Access WDUN Sports. WDUN Gainesville, WDUN FM Clarksville, Gainesville. Always here, always local.
It's 10:30.
Fox News, I'm CJ Popper. Republicans in the Senate will meet with President Trump for lunch today in a show of unity against Democrats who are blocking their efforts to fund the government. Florida Senator Ashley Moody speaking to Fox.
The I Hate America rallies and theatrics are over. You have got to do what's best for this country, the people that are relying on paychecks to provide for their families.
The shutdown reaches day 21, 2 weeks to Election Day in New York City. The Republican candidate for mayor, Curtis Sliwa.
I am not dropping out under no circumstance. I've already been offered money to drop out. I said no.
Election watchers believe he will split the vote with independent former Governor Andrew Cuomo handing an easy victory to the Democrat socialist Zoran Mondani. Early voting, it begins on Saturday. America is listening to Fox News.
Always here, always local.
From the Access WDUN Hardy Chevrolet Newsroom, I'm Steve Winslow, and earlier this month, a biker was run over by a Rabun deputy following a chase. WDUN's Hamilton Keener reports.
On October 5th, Rabun County issued a be on the lookout for a black sports bike traveling at high speeds through North Carolina and coming into Georgia. 19-year-old David Karpov was reportedly the driver of the motorcycle. In a video, Karpov is seen being ejected from his motorcycle and sliding up the roadway. At that point, he was run over by a Rabun deputy. It was accidental, and Karpov was transported for care and charged with reckless driving, among other violations.
Another candidate for lieutenant governor in Georgia makes his intentions known to the voters. State Senator Greg Dolezal from Cumming joined WDUN's Martha Zoller to let it be known that while conservative with his beliefs, one point of his policies is to keep government growth at a minimum.
I'm a limited government conservative. I don't happen to wake up in the morning and think, we need 50 more laws in the state of Georgia. And so I would like to see us continue to move the needle on being a roadblock to a certain extent on some of the bad pieces of legislation that we see come, frankly, from both sides of the aisle.
More with Martha's interview with Greg Dolezal can be found at Access WDUN. And after nearly 4 days, water service has been restored at a Hall County park in Flowery Branch. Water had been out since last Thursday at Hog Mountain Sports Complex due to a water leak. Details at Access WDUN. Now here's your Access WDUN weather forecast.
Mostly sunny skies, but they will give way to a bit more cloud cover into the afternoon. A heads up with scattered rain showers possible this afternoon. Highs in the lower 70s. From the Access WDUN Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Holly Strano.
In Brazelton, 62 degrees. Clarksville with 60. And in Gainesville, 61. From North Georgia's News Talk, AM 550 and FM 102.9. WDUN.
As an electric cooperative, Jackson EMC must always have an eye on the future, exploring the newest innovations taking place in every area of our business. Ideas that lead to a better use of resources and improved ways of conducting business. Automated switch technology, iPads in the field, and internal networking that enable us to pinpoint outages, access complex mapping, and provide faster response times. Jackson EMC, innovation for today, innovation for tomorrow.
Should you make your trust the beneficiary of your IRA? So many say you shouldn't, but we say you should. This is Kevin Tharp, elder law and estate planning attorney, and if you want your IRA to be protected for your surviving spouse, children, or family, then you should leave it to them at your death through a trust. For more information, go to my website, kevintharp.com.
It's the Martha Zoller Show, presented by Gainesville Mechanical. From the Northeast Georgia Health System studio in downtown Gainesville on AM 550 and FM 102.9 WDUN.
The reason why they held the No Kings rally at the time they did, and I would argue the reason why Democrats in the Senate kept the shutdown going as long as they did, was because they wanted to use the anger of the feds to turn them out to vote in Fairfax County in that Virginia election.
That's compelling.
No,
It is the Martha Zoller Show. That's the Ruthless Guys. Their new podcast came out today. It is the #1 podcast in America. It gets over 5 million downloads. It's the #1 political podcast. The #1 podcast is Joe Rogan. And folks, you can say all you want to say about men and how bad they are and all that kind of stuff that a lot of liberals like to say, but they're paying attention to politics, and you better learn how to talk to them. Anyway, I know how to talk to them because I'm here with Senator Blake Tillery, who is also running for lieutenant governor. It's been kind of lieutenant governor day at the Martha Zoller Show, and we're so happy to have you here.
I think this is the second or third time I've been on, so I appreciate you letting me back. It's great to be in Gainesville.
So tell us a little bit about you, and then also why you're running for lieutenant governor.
Yeah, well, I'm from Vidalia. I grew up down there. My family's from Northwest Georgia, but we moved down to South Georgia before I was old enough to remember. Married a girl from Jessup, Ashley Nicole. She's an OBGYN, delivers babies down in Vidalia and Hazelhurst. And we've got 4 boys, 2 naturally ours, a 4-year-old and a 1-year-old, John and William, and 2 foster kids that we raise in Vidalia right now. And then running statewide, so all over the state. We've been up here in Gainesville today, was in Augusta and Barrow County yesterday. It's a job interview, and if you want to win the job, you need to go talk to the people who are hiring, and that's the people of Georgia.
So what have you learned as you've been on the campaign trail here for the last couple months?
Well, I think our campaign message is resonating pretty well. It's pretty simple. We want to protect Georgia's values, protect Georgia's families, and, of course, protect Georgians' pocketbooks. And that message is resonating really well. We're organized now since the last time I've been on your show, Martha, in 159 counties. Every county in the state has a Tillery cheer for lieutenant governor. And we've also been able to win the support of 62 sheriffs. You know, in Georgia, there's only 99 Republican sheriffs. Right at 2/3 of them now have endorsed us. That's extremely humbling.
So wow, I never knew there were that many Democrat sheriffs. That's a little worrying, but we'll see what happens there. Did you hear that story about the Atlanta airport yesterday?
I did. I heard it this morning. Of course, we were busy on the trail yesterday, and so
it's an amazing story of good communication between law enforcement and quick action.
Breaking down silos and that family having the wherewithal and the conscience to call ahead.
Yeah, absolutely. Because that could have been terrible.
Correct.
I mean, and if he, what he evidently did is he walked in to kind of case the joint, to use a movie term. But if he had walked in with the weapon the first time, who knows what would have happened?
Right.
It would have been bad. But I say hooray to all those folks, and it's great that you have those sheriffs supporting you. What do you see as the biggest issues in your campaign? And 2-part question, what have you picked up from people that are issues you might not have thought about?
Well, I think we knew this, but it's just been confirmed time and time again. It's the economy. Georgia families here in Hall County, or if they're in White County, or if they're in Lumpkin County, it doesn't really matter. They're feeling the pinch at the pump. They're feeling the pinch on groceries, and they're feeling the pinch on child care. That's why the #1 issue in our campaign is to do away with the state income tax. I've chaired the budget now for 7 years. I can tell you how you do it. Folks have made a lot of hoopla lately that it's impossible, that you have to raise something else. No, you don't. You just have to control spending. We have plenty of money. We're just spending plenty of money. And in Georgia, we bring in $16.2 billion in personal income tax, but we give out over $30 billion in corporate welfare. If we're just as upset about the corporate welfare as we are about what has been termed by the right as welfare queens, then we can eliminate this state income tax problem, just like 9 other states already have done, including several of our neighbors.
So when you say corporate welfare, what do you mean? What's an example of that?
Let's talk about it for a second. Right now, if you go to buy a lottery ticket, you don't pay a sales tax on the lottery ticket. How does that help that family in White County pay for child care tonight? If you buy yacht parts in Georgia, you don't have to pay a sales tax on yacht parts. How's that helping somebody in Lumpkin County pay for groceries? And there's more than that. And let's use data centers. They're obviously spreading across the state. But if you buy a certain dollar figure based on the population in each county of computer parts, usually it's over 25 million, then you don't pay sales tax on those computer parts. But I promise you, when the college student is going to buy a laptop to go to Bernal, then they're paying their sales tax. That's not fair. That's not even across the board. If we're able to eliminate or just reduce half of those exemptions, then we can cover the cost of our state income tax.
Does the movie stuff fit in there for corporate welfare?
So right now, Georgia's film tax credit brings in, it's been at a high of right over $1 billion. It's now down because what you've seen is even though Georgia offers a lucrative credit, a 30% underwriting. That means if Tom Cruise comes to film in Georgia and someone pays him $1 million, the people of the state of Georgia pay $300,000 of that. We underwrite movies at 30%. I promise you, there's no business owner listening to your show right now who doesn't think they can make money if the government underwrites their profits at 30% or underwrites their business. What we're seeing is that even though we're underwriting that at 30%, the credits and the cost in London right now are cheaper than the cost in Georgia. So you're seeing that credit reduce its use in Georgia. It's down from $1 billion to about $750 million potentially this year. But we're seeing an uptick in television shows and other filming opportunities. If you watch the Ford commercial, for instance, it was filmed in Atlanta. Why? Because we underwrite it at 30%.
Yeah, and I can kind of, from a family story, my nephew leads a team that builds sets. And, I mean, he works on big movies. I mean, he worked on the Black Panther 2. He worked on Moana 2. He worked on several of the Avenger movies. I mean, a lot of the ones, because he specializes in building the sets for the green screens, that they do the CGI on. And he's not working as much as he was. Now, he was working 7 days a week for like 10 years. So he doesn't mind the fact that he's not working as much. But he has said that there's not as much going on.
We've seen it move over to Europe, even with Georgia's 30% underwriting.
Well, and that's the crazy thing you would say that, because my daughter and I, who take a trip every year to New York to go see shows, we a couple of times in the last 5 years, we've gone to London instead because it's cheaper to go to London and the show tickets are cheaper. That's crazy.
It also underscores why Georgians are feeling that pinch at the pump, pinch on groceries. And again, if you have young children, that pinch on childcare. Childcare is now more than a mortgage. So think about that for a second. How is someone going to be able to afford a home and have children? And then what does that do to our next generation?
And also a kind of re-education in a way, because if the cost gets that high, I don't understand why. I've had this conversation with a lot of young people that I mentor that in some cases they're paying out more than one of their salaries in childcare. And I don't understand why somebody wouldn't say, well, then maybe I should quit my job and stay at home. Even though, because it would work out, it would net work out if you did that.
Net better, most likely.
Yeah, I mean, it would be crazy. But I know people don't. I mean, it was scary when I gave up my career for 8 years and I had to start over again. But I'm glad I did it because it was the right thing to do. And but I also didn't want to spend the kind of money, and that was 30 years ago. I didn't want to spend that kind of money.
We've seen some local governments come up with some really innovative ideas. In Habersham County, for instance, the local development authority built a child care facility right at the front of their development authority land to essentially say, we're going to make it as easy as we can on child care. Because think about it, if you have to drive into town, then drive back out to where you're going, the hours that are added to the day, the time that's added away from work. So there have been some innovative proposals we've seen from different communities, but you're right. It's right for a reckoning with what we're seeing with cost.
So education, 55% of the budget. I mean, we can talk about K through 12 separately from college, but what's your views on that?
So you're right. 54% total right now, Georgia in education. We're down just a little bit this year. 54%, 23% on healthcare. So when we come into the General Assembly each year, 77% of the revenue is already committed to two areas.
To either Medicaid or education?
That's right.
Wow.
The two areas. And
is Medicaid still the fastest growing portion of the budget?
Well, it is the fastest formula growing part of the budget, correct? Because what you're seeing also now is the number of students in Georgia high schools has plateaued. So we're now on the backside of that, which is a little bit scary. It's something that Georgians need to be thinking about.
Because we built out all these schools, and now people aren't having kids.
And we've seen this in the Rust Belt, remember, in the 80s and 90s. That's when people were fleeing to the southeast, to the Sun Belt. So remember what happened to those communities then. There's a playbook for how this worked out. We can reverse those trends if we're able to do innovative things here in Georgia. I think the absolute first one is the elimination of Georgia's income tax. 9 states have already done it, including 2 of our neighbors. We've also got 2 other neighbors, North Carolina and South Carolina, who are rapidly approaching zero. It's an issue of competitiveness amongst other states, but it's also an issue of what we've already talked about, inflation for Georgia families.
So Jeannie asked the question, what's your view on gambling, gaming?
Yeah, there have been a lot of bills about that in the state capitol. I've not supported them. Again, I think I got tore up on another radio show recently because I said I haven't found the casino that didn't have a skid row. And the implications and the cost of that skid row, I don't know that we've quantified them yet. So how do you say that it's a net winner to have the casino? It's great to have the flashy building, I suppose. But again, what my campaign is focused on is protecting Georgia values, protecting Georgia families. And I don't see how it fits into either one of those.
Well, and I just think, I feel very strongly that while I don't want government to, tell me what my values should be, I do think that government needs to support families. And I think that and it's okay to say that it'd be better to have a mom and a dad and kids if you can. I mean, you've got 2 foster kids. You see the cost of a broken family every day in your life, right?
We do.
So it's a challenge, and we've got so many kids in foster care. And, in theory, and I'd love to know your idea on this too, in theory, I think the foster care system is a good one. The idea of kids being in a home is a better idea. But the average foster kid in Georgia is in 11 homes in the course of their life. You'll never learn how to attach to somebody. You'll never learn how to love. You'll never learn how to depend on a family in that situation. I'm not sure that a mixture, I know there's some group homes that I visited when I was with Governor Kemp's office that kind of help keep siblings together and things like that. But we need to look at this and maybe blow it up and start over.
Well, you're absolutely right that you can never build that consistency if you're moving 11 times in a 5-year or a 7-year or even a 9-year period. And we've seen that with some of the foster children that have come into our home. Luckily, ours has been a longer-term placement. When people are leaving, normally they're going back to a family member. And we can see the growth that happens when they are in a loving home. Me and Ashley Nicole, we're Christians, and we believe we're called to do this because of what the Bible says in James, to take care of the widow and the orphan, and God's allowed our home to be open for that. So it's been, but I tell you the truth, while you might think that these children have grown because of it, the truth is I think Ashley Nicole and I and me and our children, we've actually grown the most.
Do you ever worry about not doing enough for your own kids because you have these other kids in the home?
Yeah, I do. And it's funny you should bring that up. My 4-year-old, we have a 6-year-old and a 16-year-old who are placed with us right now. They're amazing kids. What they've been through is horrific and sometimes. And the 6-year-old and my 4-year-old think they're brothers, and they act like they're brothers, and sometimes they fight like they're brothers. And they go to timeout like they're brothers too. But in the end, our family has benefited just as much from being a foster family as I hope these children have.
Former Senator Butch Miller did a lot for kids with disabilities and special needs. And, that was one thing he shared with me years ago, that, he had one typical child and 2 children that had some challenges health-wise. And he said, I always worried, that I wasn't doing enough for that one. Of course, he's doing great, and he's doing fantastic. And Butch and Teresa are fantastic parents. It's the parents that worry about that kind of stuff that you don't have to worry about. You know what I mean?
Well, let me tell you that you've led me right into something. Of course, in the statewide campaign, we're glad to be here today on your show. Obviously, I'm here in Gainesville because I'm leading the study committee to do away with the state income tax today at 1:00. We're going to be at Long Street Cafe if any of your listeners want to come. We don't want to hear from academics. We want to hear from folks in Georgia, the bus boys, the waitresses, the first responders who
So you're having the hearing at Long Street Cafe?
We rented it out. Tim's let us do that. We're going to be there. We're clearing out the tables and saying, hey, if you think that doing away with Georgia's income tax would affect you positively or negatively, come tell us. We don't need to hear from academics about it. We've heard from Grover Norquist. We're going to hear from Art Laffer. We need to hear from Georgians of how it's going to affect them. But you mentioned the Millers. Of course, since it's a statewide campaign, of course, we had a little fundraising event before, and Butch was kind enough to come by. But the most touching thing that I've had happen in this entire election so far is Charlie, who you mentioned, his special needs son, who's doing amazing. Charlie has been a friend of mine for a long time, and to get Charlie's endorsement and Charlie's help in this race, which we did. Butch, if you're listening, you can know this, and I'd tell it to your face. I'm glad to have you show up and help us today, but I'd rather have Charlie any day, and we're so glad to have him. So.
We'll take a break, and then we'll be back to take you up to the top of the hour.
Fuel our discussions with your opinions.
We need to talk about common sense here.
We're the station that gives you a voice.
It's my local station.
We're North Georgia's News Talk, AM 550 and FM 102.9 WDUN.
Would you take advice on how to collect money from the folks that owe it to you? That's exactly what you do when you let an insurance company steer you to their contract shop. At Nichols Body Shop, we earn our customers one at a time. We depend on repeat customers and referrals to keep our shop busy. When you need a repair shop, please consider picking a shop that works for you. Nichols Body Shop in Flowery Branch, where the best sign of a quality repair is no sign at all. Find us on Facebook or call 770-967-8200.
When you have a problem with your roof, you want someone who can respond quickly, but also who knows roofing. That's what you get at Georgia Select Roofing. This is Chris Earls, and we do roofing right. Estimates are free, we can help you navigate your insurance claim, and we also offer financing. Check out our Google reviews, and you'll see that Georgia Select Roofing offers the best service around. See us today at georgiaselectroofing.com or call us at 678-316-6899. Family owned and operated, Georgia Select Roofing has you covered.
So it's time to replace your roof. You've seen your neighbor's metal roof and wondered if that's for you. The answer is yes, thanks to Dawsonville Metal Products. Metal roofing from Dawsonville Metal gives you the maximum choices for making your roof look and function its best. It can be installed over your existing roof and can boost your home's value. Let Justin Odom show you the many benefits of metal roofing. Call Dawsonville Metal Products at 706-265-3099 and visit them online at dawsonvillemetal.com.
Cold weather will be here before you know it. At the same time, power outages are on the rise. So here's an important question. If the power goes out when it's really cold, do you have a way to stay warm? If not, you've got to check out the Avesta off-grid space heater from My Patriot Supply. It's a compact, portable space heater that doesn't use electricity. It runs on something called canned heat, which is an indoor safe fuel. It's completely off-grid, and it can heat up a 200 square foot room in a matter of minutes. With Avesta stashed in your closet, you can rest easy, knowing you and your family will stay warm, even if the power goes out. Plus, it doubles as a stove to boil water or cook food without electricity or propane. The best part is, you can get Avesta and a bunch of other free gifts when you order the Winter Prep Special from My Patriot Supply. Just go to mypatriotsupply.com to see everything included. This offer won't last long, and neither will this nice fall weather, so go to mypatriotsupply.com today. That's mypatriotsupply.com.
Always here, always local.
From the Access WDUN Hardy Chevrolet Newsroom, sounds and sights from youthful industrialists will be coming out of Chicopee Woods Agricultural Center of Gainesville Wednesday morning. Details at Access WDUN and coming up on North Georgia's News Talk.
Use the Access WDUN Talk and Text line, presented by M&R Rental at 770-535-2911, and be part of the conversation. From the Northeast Georgia Health System studio in downtown Gainesville, it's the Martha Zoller Show on AM 550 and FM 102.9 WDUN.
It is the Martha Zoller Show. We're here with Blake Tillery, Senator Blake Tillery. Every senator is running for lieutenant governor, not quite, but he's here. He's running for lieutenant governor. He's going to spend, I want you to plug again this hearing you're going to have, because I think it's pretty amazing that it's at the Long Street Cafe.
Yeah, as you know, I've been appointed to chair the committee by the lieutenant governor to do away with the state income tax. We're having our next meeting today. It's at 1 o'clock. It's at the Long Street Cafe. We've had several already at the Capitol.
You'll see plenty of people there.
And that's what we want to do. The doing away with Georgia's income tax is not an academic thing. It's not meant to help the elites. It's meant to help the middle class. And that's who we're going to see today at Long Street Cafe. Actually, Long Street Cafe is a great mix of millionaires and blue collar, and it's just a great mix, and we look forward to talking with them.
But I think you've hit on something here, because we always think about how to get more people involved, okay? And I'm sure you see it at the state capitol. I see it with local politics, is that you don't hear from people until you've already taken the vote. And by then it's too late. You know what I mean? You've already taken the vote. There's not anything you can do about it except start another process to change things, which takes a long time. I think we need to find more ways to do these hearings in places like that.
Well, we're definitely doing that with this.
You should go to the No Kings rally and have. No, I'm just kidding.
Well, I just checked. There's still no kings in America. So we're again, what you've said is absolutely right. That's why we're so glad that Tim's allowing us to clear out the cafe today just after lunch and hear from folks who this will benefit the most. What would having 5% extra in your paycheck be? We know we're going to hear from your police chief, Jay Parrish, here. He's going to talk about how recruitment is hard because people can be just across the border and make 5% more. And even though their family may be from Gainesville, he has post-certified officers that are living in Copper Hill, Tennessee, or somewhere like that where their money's going to go 5% further. What does that do if you bring them back? And let's think about the folks that I was meeting with another company this morning at breakfast around 8 o'clock who said that the majority of their employees, 1099 contractors, are from Florida. They have a lot of Florida tags in their parking lot. Why are they from Florida? Well, there's no income tax. And think about that. As a conservative, those folks are most likely, they're making a business decision like that, they're most likely voting conservative values. Ron DeSantis doesn't need their vote anymore. Florida's secure. Georgia needs their vote. We can make a policy decision that also helps in a political decision. Why would we not do that and help the middle class and help Georgia families?
I think that's exciting, because people have talked about it for a while. The current lieutenant governor has talked about getting rid of the income tax. He's making it a plank on his governor's race too. So I think that if you get a couple of you guys in there that are for that, we should be able to get it done. I've been for it forever. I'm a fair taxer. Okay. I believe in the fair tax. I think that consumption is the best way to tax things because then you can pull back when you need to and you can spend when you need to, right? So I like that. But whatever we come up with, I think if we get rid of our income tax, that's a good thing.
Well, John Linder's become a good friend of mine in this, and he and I have talked about it. And John's plan on the fair taxes is slightly different than what we're looking at right now. In Georgia, we don't tax groceries right now. I don't think we should have a sales tax on groceries. The committee's already voted that they don't want to add one on.
No, you shouldn't.
We've also voted that we're not going to add any type of property tax. Remember, the state of Georgia does not collect property taxes. Only your local government does. We're not going to do that here either. And so there's some things that the fair tax would lead to that we probably can't do. But, of course, Mr. Linder's been a leader in this field for 2 decades. We want to take his advice.
So grocery sales tax on groceries, how do they do that exactly? I mean, meaning because obviously you still pay sales tax if you buy alcohol, for example. So is it just foodstuffs are exempted?
Correct. If you're buying food that is for off-premises consumption in Georgia, you do not pay the state sales tax. The state sales tax is 4%. Now, you may still pay the local sales tax of 3 or 4, whichever your community has, but you do not pay the state sales tax portion. That's a lot of money in Georgia. It's around $700 million that's exempted. I'll put that in that category of the $30 billion I was talking about earlier. We're not going to add that $700 million back. Why? Because it benefits all Georgians. It doesn't just benefit a special elite. But if you got a tax credit because you were able to hire a lobbyist at the Capitol, then you need to know that your tax credit's being studied if it makes sense for Georgians. And if it doesn't, we're going to look at eliminating that so that we can reduce the income tax for everybody else.
So at one point in time, we used to do this zero-based budgeting on each department. And that way you kind of started over. In 2018, we did our last report on that. And then I think they more or less repealed it in 2020. That's the best research I've been able to do on it.
Correct.
Are you in favor of that?
I've been in favor of it the entire time. And luckily, as the chairman of the Senate Appropriations Committee, I get to do my own zero-based budgeting every year anyway. It's hard to do. We only did it over 25% of the budget because each agency is you couldn't bring each agency in every year and
right.
do
it would take too much time.
You don't have enough time. You'd have
to
have
I advocate that
session.
For the federal government too. They would if they have 12 departments, do it over 12 years. You know, you could get it done.
You could, and Georgians expect that. They're zero-based budgeting their budgets. Why are we not doing it with our state taxpayers?
So what's your website, Blake?
It's TilleryForGeorgia.com. TILLERYFOR Georgia.com. So please come log on. We'd love to have everyone's help.
Thanks for being with us today.
Thanks for letting me.